1,000 years of society is scared of you right now. A whole ancient circle. They are scared of you. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing good because I got some wild news for you today. And I don't even know if it's gonna shock you. Because deep down, you already kind of knew this energy was different. You already knew you weren't built like everybody else out there. See, I'm getting this vision of an old society, like a real old one, not something they started last year or 10 years ago. I'm talking centuries, a group that's been operating in the shadows for generations, quietly watching, keep, quietly keeping tabs on certain people who come into this world with something extra, and you popped up on their radar a long time ago, longer than you think actually. At first they thought you were just another soul passing through, just another person living their life, working their job, minding their business. They ain't think nothing of you at first. They thought you were just background noise, somebody they ain't even have to pay attention to. But then things started happening. Things they couldn't explain. People kept surviving situations they weren't supposed to survive when they were around you. Doors kept opening for you that don't open for regular people. You kept sensing things before they happened. You kept knowing when to leave a room, when to cut off a person, when to hold your tongue, and when to speak up. And this old society, this circle, that's been around since before your grandparents. Grandparents were born. They started taking notes. They sent people to test you. You ever noticed how certain folks just showed up in your life out of nowhere? Actually, real strange. Pushing your buttons for no reason, provoking you. They're, I don't know, they're just like you're sensing the evilness, okay? Trying to get a reaction, trying to see what you were made of. That wasn't random. That somehow that was a test. They wanted to see if you would crack. They wanted to see if you would fold under pressure. They were really testing me, okay? Lose your temper. Expose something they could use against you. And every single time you passed, you stayed calm when they wanted chaos. You stayed quiet when they want to you explain yourself. You stayed grounded when they wanted you to spiral. And that's when the fear started, okay? Here's the real story is beginning right now. Because 1,000-year-old society didn't get that old by being careless. They got that old by knowing exactly who to be afraid of. Okay, this is important. And the people who really scare them ain't the loud ones, ain't the ones flexing and showing off. It's the quiet ones, like you. The ones who watching everything and say nothing. The ones who move different and don't even realize how different they move until somebody else points out. You are one of the quiet ones. And quiet does not mean weak. Quiet means calculated. Quiet means you already thought 3 steps ahead while everybody else is still on step one. Now, here's the thing. This society, they operate off of hierarchy. They got levels, okay? They've got people who are supposed to stay small, stay obedient, stay in line, never question nothing, never rise past a certain point. That's how they keep control. That's how they keep control for thousands years, okay? By making sure nobody realizes their own power. Keep people distracted, keep people doubting themselves, keep people thinking they're average when they ain't average at all. But you slip through the cracks. Somehow, some way, you slipped through and you started waking up. And once a person like you starts waking up, it's over for them. It's over for their whole system. Because you ain't the type to just accept what you're told, okay? You're the type to question it. You're the type to sit back and go, wait a minute, why does this feel off? Why do I feel like there's more to this than what they're showing me? And that questioning, that's exactly what they feared the most. Because a system built on people staying asleep cannot survive a person who wakes all the way up. So they started watching you closer, real close. They put people in your circle just to observe you. Some of your old friends, some of the people who drifted away from you for no clear reason. Some of them weren't drifting on their own. Some of them were reporting back. I don't say that to make you paranoid. I say that so you understand why certain relationships just fell off out of nowhere. Why certain people started acting funny around you for zero reason you could point to. It wasn't you. It was never you. It was what you represent. Because, see, you represent a threat to a system that depends on people staying small. You represent the possibility that regular people can wake up, can see through the games, okay? Can stop playing by rules that were never designed to benefit them in the first place. And now they've come to a conclusion. After all that testing, after all that watching, after sending people your way, to knock you off your path and watching you stay steady, they realize you're way more powerful than they originally assumed. They thought were low level. They thought you were somebody they could keep an eye on and forget about. Now they know you're one of the ones capable of shifting things, one of the ones capable of waking other people up just by being yourself, just by walking through a room, just by speaking your truth without ever trying to convince anybody of anything. That's rare kind of power. Most people spend their whole time trying to convince others of something. You don't even have to convince anybody. People just feel something different around and they can't explain what it is. So they either get drawn to you or they get scared of you. There's rarely an in between with someone like you. Now, let's talk about why you got this power in the first place. Because it didn't come easy. Okay? I already know you didn't grow up with everything handed to you. You grew up having to figure things out on your own a lot of the time. You grew up around people who probably should have protected you more than they did, guided you more than they did. And instead of that breaking you all the way down, it's built something in you. It's built a kind of awareness that people who had it easy simply don't have. You learned how to read a room before you could even explain what reading a room meant. You learned how to sense when something was off with a person even when they were smiling in your face. That's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's the years of hard lessons turning into something useful, turning into armor, turning into insight. And that insight is exactly what this old society fears. Because insight cannot be controlled the same way ignorance can. They can manipulate somebody doesn't uh, see the game. They cannot manipulate somebody who already knows the rules better than the people running it. So now they're in a strange position because normally when the society identifies somebody with this kind of energy early, they either try to recruit them or they try to neutralize them quietly before that person gets too strong. You slipped past both of those windows. You got strong before they could stop you. And now it's too late for them to fully contain what you're becoming. That's why you might notice certain things lining up for you lately that don't make logical sense. Opportunities appearing out of nowhere. Certain doors opening that you didn't even knock on. Certain people suddenly wanting to be close to you. Wanting your attention, wanting your approval, when a year ago they barely acknowledged you existed. That shift is not random. That's the universe rearranging itself around a person who has stepped into their actual power. And on the flip side, you might notice certain people getting real uncomfortable around you, real short with you, real distant for no clear reason. That's them sensing that you have outgrown whatever role they wanted you to play in their life. Like you better small. Some people like you better doubting yourself, questioning yourself, staying quiet and small and manageable. Now that you're not that person anymore. They don't know how to deal with you. So they pull away or they try to provoke you, hoping you'll shrink back down to the version of you that was easier for them to handle. Don't shrink. I need you to hear that clearly. Don't shrink back down for anybody's comfort. That old version of you served its purpose. It got you through some hard seasons, but it's not who you are anymore. And there's no going back it. Even if people around you wish you would. Now, this thousand-year-old society, they operate through fear and through secrecy. That's their whole foundation. Keep people afraid, people confused, keep people in the dark about how much control they actually have over their own life. And a person like you, who's been through real struggle, who's had to figure things out with nobody explaining it to you, became naturally immune to that kind of manipulation over time. You start seeing the strings. You start seeing how the puppets move and who's pulling what. And once you see the strings, you can't unsee them. That's where you find yourself pulling away from certain environments that used to feel normal to you. Certain jobs, certain friend groups, certain family dynamics that used to feel fine, they start feeling heavy now. They start feeling like a costume that don't fit right anymore. That's growth. That's not you being difficult or dramatic. That's your spirit outgrowing spaces that were built for a smaller version of you. I want you to think back on a moment, maybe recent, maybe a while ago, where you walked into a room and just felt eyes on you before anybody even said a word. Not because you did something to draw attention, just because your presence shifted the energy the second you walked in. That's happening all the time, okay? That's not your imagination. That's real people feel something around certain individuals that they cannot put into words, okay? And instead of admitting they don't understand it, they either worship it or they fear it. That's rarely a middle ground. And I'm getting that a lot of people have chosen fear when it comes to you. Not because you did anything wrong, because your presence reminds them of something they haven't dealt with in themselves. When somebody is not aligned, when somebody has unresolved stuff going on inside them, being around someone who is genuinely settled in who they are, even with all their flaws, it makes that unaligned person uncomfortable. It's like a mirror they didn't ask to look into. That's why some people avoid you without explanation. Are you understanding? You're like a mirror, okay? That's why some people talk about you behind your back, but can never really pin down what it is they don't like, because there's nothing contrary to point to. It's just a feeling, and feelings like that are hard for people to sit with. So instead of sitting with it, they create stories, they create rumors. They call you arrogant when you're just confident. They call you cold when you're just protective of your peace. They call you secretive when you're just private. None of those labels are actually true. But people need something to call to discomfort they feel. Okay? So they slap a label on it and move on. Meanwhile, this old society I keep mentioning, they've shifted their approach with you. They started off trying to test you, trying to break you, trying to see how far they could push before you snapped. Now they moved into a different phase, okay? This is important, so listen carefully. Now it's more about observation and containment. They're trying to figure out how far your influence is gonna spread, okay? Because they already know they can't stop it from spreading. They just want to understand it so they can prepare. And that's right there. That's real power. Real power isn't about being loud. It isn't about announcing yourself everywhere you go. Real power is when the people who used to underestimate you now have to build entire strategies just to keep up with you. Real power is when your simple existence forces other people to adjust, to recalibrate, to take you seriously in a way they never accept to have to. I know sometimes it feels lonely, okay? Walking around with this kind of awareness, I know sometimes you wonder why certain people just can't seem to stay in your life. Why certain relationships keep failing apart no matter how good your intentions were going in. It's because Not everybody is built to walk alongside somebody who's waking up. That's it. That's all you need to know, actually. Some people are only built for the version of you that existed before all this awareness kicked in. And it's okay to let those people go. It's okay outgrow spaces, outgrow friendships, outgrow even family dynamics that no longer match where you're headed. Because here is the truth. You were never meant to stay small. You were never meant to shrink yourself down just so other people could feel comfortable. That's all society built its whole existence on convincing regular people that staying small was safer, that questioning things was dangerous, that standing out was something to be ashamed of. And for a long time, that message worked on almost everybody, but it didn't fully work on you. Something in you kept resisting, okay? Now you're at a point where you can feel the shift is happening. You can feel yourself stepping into something bigger than what you used to accept for yourself. And that shift is scaring the people who benefit from keeping others small. It's securing old friends who like the smaller version of you better. It's securing family members who don't know how to relate to somebody who no longer needs their approval to feel like they matter. And yeah, in a symbolic sense, it's caring. Whatever old systems and old patterns have been quietly running quietly in the background trying to keep certain people boxed in. I keep saying society, and I keep saying they. And I want you to understand, I'm not talking about some random group of strangers plotting against you specifically. I'm talking about patterns, old patterns, old energies, generational cycles of control. Okay, this is not simple thing. And fear that have existed for a a long time, way before you were even born. And when a person breaks out of those patterns, when a person becomes too aware, too grounded, too connected to their own inner knowing, it disrupts the whole flow of how those patterns are supposed to operate. That disruption is what people are sensing around you. That disruption is what makes certain people nervous even if they can't explain why. And listen, I know some of y'all watching this are gonna feel exposed right now. Like I'm speaking directly into something private that you never told anybody else. That's so normal, okay? If you're feeling like that way now, it's time to subscribe because there is there's gonna be a lot news, okay? I know your specific businesses. It's because this energy, this pattern is way bigger than just one person's story. A whole lot of y'all have lived versions of the same thing, grew up around people who should have protect you but instead confused you. Learn the hard way how to read people before you even read a full sentence got called too sensitive, too much, too intense, when really you were just ahead of everybody else in understanding what was really going on around you. And now, here you are walking through life with a kind of clarity that a lot of people simply don't have. And it's making waves, whether you're trying to make waves or not. You don't even have to try. That's the wildest part. You're not out there trying to prove anything to anybody. And that's exactly why it's working. The moment you stop chasing validation is the moment your presence start commanding attention on its own. So, if you've been feeling like people have been acting weird around you lately, if you've been feeling like certain relationships are shifting, certain doors are opening, certain old chapters are closing without a clean explanation. Just know that's part of a bigger process. You are not going crazy. You're not imagining things. You are not crazy. You're simply stepping into a version of yourself that a lot of old patterns were never built to handle. I want you to keep moving forward exactly how you've been moving. Stay observant. Stay quiet when quiet serves you. Stay humble. Speak up when speaking up serves you. Don't let anybody talk you into shrinking back down just because your growth is making them uncomfortable. That discomfort is not your responsibility to fix it. Your own responsibility is to keep walking in your own truth, in your own path, okay? Keep trusting what you sense, even when you can't fully explain it, and keep allowing yourself to outgrow when whatever no longer fits. Because whether you fully feel it yet or not, you have already stepped into something that old patterns, old systems, old cycles of control simply were not built to contain. Okay? And thank you for watching. Now you know it. Goodbye.